Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to our online lessons with Al-Dareyn Model School. Today we're going to be learning about the conditionals. We're going to learn about the zero conditional, the first conditional, the second, and the third conditional. The zero conditional, I'll give you an explanation of what a conditional is first. So here you can see this example. It says, if you pray salah, you will be successful. So the condition is if you pray, and the result is you will be successful. So this is zero conditional. If I give you another example, if you freeze water, it turns into ice. If you freeze water, it turns into ice. So when do we use the zero conditional? We use the zero conditional to express facts that are generally true. So if something is generally true and it doesn't change, it could be a scientific fact, then you would use the zero conditional. Like the example we have, if you freeze water, it turns into ice. And also, if you pray salah, which is guaranteed, this success is guaranteed by Allah. If you pray salah, you will be successful. How do we form the zero conditional? The way we form the zero conditional is by adding the present simple with the present simple. So the condition we have, if you pray salah, you will be successful. So you will be successful. Be is the present simple. The next one is the first conditional. I'll give you some examples of the first conditional. The first example is, if I study, I will pass my exams. If I study, I will pass my exams. If it rains, the second example, if it rains, we will cancel the event. When do we use the first conditional? As you can see in the examples, use it in a possible situation in the future. A possible situation in the future. For example, if I study, I will pass my exams. That's possible in the future. If I study. If it rains, we will cancel the event. So that's possible as well. It's a possibility that it might rain. And if it rains, we will cancel the event. How do you form the first conditional? You form the first conditional by adding a present simple plus will or want for negative plus a verb. So the present simple in the first sentence is, if I study, study is the present simple, I will pass my exams. So will plus the verb pass, I will pass my exams. Also in the next one as well, if it rains, okay, rains is the present simple, we have the word will, and plus verb, cancel. So we will cancel the event. We move on to the next one. The second conditional. An example of the second condition is, if I had more free time, I will travel around the world. If I had more free time, I will travel around the world. Another example. If I won £1 million pounds or dollars, I will build a masjid. The biggest masjid. I will build a masjid. So how do you use, or when do you use the second conditional? Use the second conditional in hypothetical or unlikely situations, something which is unlikely to happen. So it's unlikely for me to win £1 million. And it's unlikely for me to travel all around the world. So how do we form the second condition? We form it by adding the past simple plus would plus a verb. So if I had, okay, had is the past simple, I would travel around the world. So would plus the verb travel around the world. If I won £1 million, so here one is the past simple, I will build a masjid. So I would plus the verb build. This is how we form the second conditional. The third conditional. An example of the third condition is, if you had studied, you would have passed your exam. If he had driven carefully, he wouldn't have had an accident. So when do we use this third conditional? We use the third conditional in an imaginary situation that did not happen in the past. So for example, somebody did not study for his exams, and so therefore he failed. So we can say to that person, if you did something differently, if you did study, if you had studied, the result would have been different. You would have passed your exam. Let's say this man in the picture, he was driving carelessly. He was driving fast, and he had an accident. So we can imagine a different past. We could say, if you had driven carefully, or if he had driven carefully, he wouldn't have had an accident. So because he drove carefully, he had an accident. So if he hadn't driven carefully, he wouldn't have had an accident. So we use it in an imaginary situation that did not happen in the past. How do we form the third conditional? We form the third conditional by adding the past perfect plus would have plus the past participle. So if you had studied, okay? If you had studied, that's the past perfect. Would have, okay, that we have there in the first example, past, which is the past participle. In the other example, if he had driven, so he had driven, that's the we have the past perfect there. Would or wouldn't have, we have wouldn't have plus past participle, okay? So he wouldn't have had. Had is the past participle here, an accident. So this is how you form the third conditional. Let's do some exercises. So let's use the conditionals in the following sentences. The first one, I wish I had a bag. So what do we say? If I had a bag, I would carry all my books. If I had a bag, I would carry all my books. Let's say my brother broke his leg. That happened in the past. Let's imagine something else. Let's imagine something else. So we say, if my brother walked carefully, he wouldn't have broken his leg. He broke his leg because he was running in the place where you're not supposed to run, like in the corridors. So we could say, if my brother walked carefully, he wouldn't have broken his leg. Just imagine you saw a snake in your bedroom. What would you do? Just imagine. So if I saw a snake in my bedroom, or in the bedroom, I would run for my life. If I saw a snake in my bedroom, there's a little mistake there. If I saw a snake in my bedroom, I would run for my life. Conclusion. So in this lesson, we've learned about the conditionals. We've learned the zero conditional, the first conditional, how to use the first conditional, and the second conditional, and the third conditional. This is just an introduction to the conditionals. We will cover each one more in detail in the future lessons. وجزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We'll be sending you some activities to do. I hope you are able to accomplish finishing your tasks or your homework successfully.